And we're live.
Okay. Hey, everybody. If you're watching on Zoomer content or the Modern Monarchist channel, I'd like to welcome you guys to an interview. It was an odyssey to get here, a technological odyssey, but now it's brought to you by way of a Discord call. This is Aleczander, the host of Zoomer content. In the first of many times, I think we'll be together on collaborations. I am the interviewer. I'm not gonna be. I'm gonna be like Tucker Carlson, not Chris Cuomo. Okay, no
We'll
pertinent
see.
questions.
hmm
Yeah, no. We're not gonna talk about your raging anti-Semitism or whatever.
Uh-huh.
It's all gonna be good. We'll probably get
You're
into that in the five
next.
minutes. Yeah, I'm next on the cancel train.
hmm
But welcome, guys. I'm gonna be asking him about his lore, if you will. This isn't like a docs. This is a lore. He's a content producer, and we want to spread the content around. We want all of us to rise, all of us who are doing a lot of good work in content. So I'll be asking him this. Before I begin, is there anything you want to say? Everything you say will be used against you.
No, I really don't have anything else to say, but thank you for doing this, Modern Marcus. People have said this for a while. Do a podcast, something where you're on talking about, yourself, what you do, and it's like, well, I don't got anyone. I can't just be on there by myself, going off on a tangent. And here came Modern Monarchist, so it's like, all right, well, no, if there's anything I gotta say, I'll probably say it later on. But I'm curious to
Mm-hmm.
see what you got to say about me and your questions, and
Yeah.
I'm sure everyone wants to hear my answers to them. So, ready when you are.
All right, I'll take it away. And I will say that we are okay with tangents. If there's one thing that makes interviews suck, is when the interviewer cuts off the person who wants to talk. So we're going to go as long as the conversation flows or as long as, well, until the caffeine runs out. So I'm glad you got your cherry pop or whatever the heck you're drinking is, your adrenochrome juice, and I've got my cups of coffee. We're going to be doing basically, how does lore start, right? How does your lore start, right? You don't get an internet lore before your personal lore. And so without doxing yourself, how was your childhood? What made you, a conduit for your Groiper energy? What was your childhood like, and what was the bricks? What were the foundation stones to make you open to our ideas, to Nick's ideas, I should say.
Well, I always say that I was based since birth. And I say that because for instance, I've always really been a Christian. I mean, people always ask, there's got to be a day when you didn't believe in God. There was never a time in my life where I just didn't know God. I don't know if it's because my memory doesn't go as far back or if I just naturally just always believe in God. And with that, I've always kind of been based in a sense in middle school, elementary school. I had temptations. I liked girls, but I typically, if I got asked out or went to a dance, I was I had this very negative energy around them where I just didn't really like to be around them. I usually rejected them. And usually it was because this one girl was like Indian. I'm like, well, you're not really my type, but it also really had to do with the fact that I was just kind of a nerd, kind of a nerd, but in like the base sense, where I'd be in class, in history class or any like class relevant to world politics or our state of the world, and everyone would go to me for answers. I'd be like the guy, I'd help with homework, but also, I was really cool about it. I kind of made history not in this like weird nerd thing, but in this cool thing. I remember I had like this table of like 9 people or whatever. We were like together, and I was like going off about how like the Soviets rose against the Tsars and they got executed firing squad, and they were enjoying it. And they thought it was like really cool. I knew all this stuff. I mean, not so base, but like you know what I mean. And so,
Mhm.
anyways, growing up, that was kind of who I was. And being a history nerd, I was around a lot of edgy communities. And when I started diving deep into the history of Europe and certain Central European countries,
Mhm.
I kind of went down a phase for a bit, for a few years, and then I came out of that and I was like, okay, wow, that was one hell of a LARP. Let's get really serious. And so, as early as eighth grade, me and some friends red pilled each other on a lot of things, and we became like these American nationalists, American monarchists, and we formed a temporary youth group, which was kind of an online thing, but also was very active locally. It didn't last long. I kind of founded it, but it was led by another guy, and it was kind of in shambles. I mean, we were like, 13, 14, 15, so it wasn't like something serious, but we were like rallying dozens of people, making speeches, and dominating student council. We would wear suits to school and stuff. Like we were this, force to be reckoned with, and we made quite the impact. Everyone was really involved. They wanted to go out and do like, you know, parades and speeches and stuff, and so it was very effective. But the leadership was incompetent. There's a lot of issues with the leadership, and you'll see this pattern in my life with people until now. Obviously, we've got the greatest leader we could ever ask for, Nicholas J. Fuentes. But prior to this, it was always a struggle finding the right leader, finding someone who was dominant and charismatic and could rally people and just go full throttle force without any um, you know, lack of morale or courage or anything. Someone with
Mhm.
incredible resilience. So that eventually fell apart. I kind of went down a very apolitical end for a while. I was kind of like in this modern or monarchist phase for a little bit, and then eventually I met up with Base Palpatine because he was in this group. Actually, I forgot to mention that I grew up with Base Palpatine. And
Mhm.
I was Red Bull before I met him, and I met him. He was just biking one day, and it just kind of had that vibe. He was just kind of, someone that I knew was base. We got together and we hung out and stuff. But a year later, after the shit show that we were in, he came to my house. We talked for a bit, and he got me back into the gang and said, "Hey, there's this guy named Ink Fuentes. He's, kind of like what we used to do, but he's a lot more optical. And tell me about optics and how we can't be going out, mentioning certain." Nations and stuff like that, and we got to forget about all the past stuff and move on with what America has. And I said, okay. I'm like, well, and what's funny is that during this youth movement I was in, I kept mentioning optics. I'm like, we can't be like having like parades, we can't be having all this other stuff going on. We got to be more optical. I didn't use the term optics, but I was like, this is like, no one's gonna go seriously if we're going around, just saying slurs and trying to be edgy. Anyways, he introduced me to Nick Fuentes. This was probably around
Mhm.
March 2019.
Okay.
Um, and I started listening to Nick, and I was all in. I'm like, this is the guy. This is the leader. This is the guy that's going to like do all this stuff. And I remember listening to Baked Alaska during Charlottesville. I remember listening to all these other alt-right figures and stuff.
Yeah.
And but for the most part, the vast majority of them, it's like these aren't people to rally behind. Like these leaders, they aren't even like leaders. You look at the old nationalist leaders of the early 1900s, the late 1900s, and these were like dominating, figures that had principles and had like, they were actually authoritarian. And you look at the alt right, and one thing that isn't really talked about is how diversified they were. Where it was all about, oh, we got to work together, but work together in this sense where it was like they were all kind of just measuring each other's dicks, and it's like, what is this? Is not getting anything
Mhm.
done. Not only that, but they were very, they talked like they were authoritarian, but they really weren't. There wasn't really this idea of real loyalty or respect. In AF, there is. In AF, it's genuine loyalty, it's genuine respect, and we're part of an actual cause. The leader that actually, if you're not with me, you're against me. And I like that mentality because that mentality is what we need to push America all the way forward. It is imperative that we have a leader that will be straight up and just say we're doing this, we're doing that, no questions asked. And I mean, people ask questions. That's fine on occasion. I mean, he's not totalitarian, but he is, he's authoritarian in a sense we need because it just indicates dominance, and that's something we lack. I mean, look at Trump. Okay, he should have purged a shit ton of people in the GOP, and look what happened because he didn't. That's the same thing with the alt right. Nick Fuentes, if he was in there, he'd be like, okay, you're done, you're done, you're done, you're done, you're done. Now replace all these guys with total fanatics who will wield the torch and carry AF forward. That's what we need. I saw that in Nick Fuentes since day one, and I'm like, this is the guy. This guy, I'm gonna die for this guy. So, um, I got involved in the GOP a little
I got a
bit.
super chat, by the way.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah, yeah, sure. Ask away if you want. I'm not sure how this works, so you want to wait until the end, or what do you want to
Well,
do?
it just played. The my power chat just goes
Oh,
crazy.
okay.
You know,
I
I,
didn't
I
hear
got
that.
like the instant thing. So
Hmm.
believe it or not, this guy requested music. He's like he's running with his dog, and he's like through beautiful Montana. I have something to listen to. So you know what he requested to? My country, 'tis of thee in German. So you know, Welcome to my audience and their weird
Yeah.
taste, let's
Well,
say. It's
I
all good.
okay. Well,
Keep going, Alec.
yeah, I will. I don't know how to respond to that if you want to. But anyways, so I got involved in the local GOP. Um, and we kind of expanded our influence. We met other gripers, more AF adjacent people. BP kind of went off and did other stuff IRL, and I think after that, I was kind of on my own, and so I was part of a group called YCM, and this is where things get wild for me. So I joined YCM. Keep in mind that I was young at this age. You know, I was in the middle of high school. I was in my youth. All these other guys are in their early to mid to late 20s. Some of them are around my age, but they're like, 18, 19, 20. I'm not even an adult yet, right? So I'm kind of just walking into this thing, blindfolded. I kind of just was like, okay, these guys are base. These guys are my type of guys. And they were AF at first, and it was good. We were getting candidates elected that were AF. We were helping out. Well, it was more so. It wasn't that they were AF. I mean, the leader. I'm not gonna dox him, even though he's not really AF or really even a relevant figure anymore. We'll just call him Dom. The leader of this group. Was talking to Nick. He was adjacent to Nick, but he wasn't actually a griper. In fact, most of YCM, I would argue, were full of Wignats and Patrick Casey guys. Why there are Patrick Casey fanboys still around, I have no freaking idea. I think
It's
that's
that
retarded.
dumper. It's that dumper.
Yeah, I have no idea why they like this guy, but they do. So, anyways, we were helping out. I was helping get people elected. I was helping out with campaigns. I was writing up data. I mean, I'm spending weeks upon weeks upon weeks doing all this work for this group, and I was kind of a high rank in this organization. I was a committee leader. I was in charge of vetting people. I was kind of
Hmm.
like this spec ops kind of figure where I was out there interrogating people and vetting them in and recruiting people and how do I, how to red pill people, making all these like doctrines and stuff. It was kind of fun because I'm out here. I have like a team of people, and they're going out and they're red pilling people, and they're like the NKVD, kind of thing, kind of a LARP because they were kind of wignatish. So we'd show up and there'd be like all these guys wearing black shirts, and we're like, what's up with that? And you have a guy like with the Mosley mustache. It's like, what is going on, man? Like seriously,
Yeah.
what are you niggas doing? But so that happened, and it just turned more and more into more of a Wignet organization. Um, and after November 2020, people became more and more closer to anti-Nick, and by like a year later, it got to the point where there was like different groups within YCM. So you had people from one end of the state that were like pro Nick, but um, they weren't like active gripers. You had one part of our group that were like total schizomaniacs, total Wignats, total Patrick Casey, and you had one portion of the group that was small, which kind of included me, where it was like we're more like AF types, but some of them were more leaning into like Wignats. So you had all these different factions kind of forming up, and they were trying to like coup each other. Because you had one faction trying to say, Perch, these guys were going to overthrow you. It was like a total shit show. Um, well, eventually, BP gets recognized because he was the America First standard bearer or whatever. And so everyone is freaking out about YCM. We're in the mainstream of AF. Patrick Casey reaches out. Nick Fuentes reaches out. And this was probably in like September of 2020, I want to say. And so I'm like in the inner circle. There's probably like five other guys in the inner circle. I'm in this Snapchat group chat. By the way, all of this was organized using Snapchat. And I'm like, why is there not a Telegram or a Discord or a Rocket Chat or some like this is our organization? It's like, oh my
Mhm.
god. I was advocating for a new network like every week. I'm like, okay, when's the new network up? When's the new server up? They never got it done. It's like, oh my god,
Mhm.
the leadership. It's like they're like on crack cocaine, man. What is going on? So anyway, they reach out. Patrick Casey reaches out on Snapchat, and everyone's like freaking out, like this is a fed. This can't be the real him. It's a fake Patrick Casey. Um, some moron invites him to like the main group chat with like 40 or so people, and everyone's freaking out in the inner circle, and they're like, get him to send a snap. So he sends a snap, and we look at it, And I was at school or something that day, so I got home last, and I saw it last. Well, I didn't even look at it yet. I looked at the inner circle chat first, and they're like, it might not be him. He looks too skinny. I remember him being bigger. It could be like an impersonator. It's like, oh my god, like you guys are retarded. Like it's probably him, and you're spurging out. Like really, this is a Fed. So, they're like, someone go view his snap and screenshot it. And I'm pretty sure it was like the leader or something, but two guys said go do that. And I'm like, well, I haven't viewed the snap yet. I'll go view the snap and screenshot it. I do that, right? I send it and I'm
Hmm.
like, it's literally him. You guys are retarded. What's the first thing they say to me? Oh, no, no, you're gonna freak him out. You're gonna think we're feds trying to like dox him or something. I'm like, what? Like, we're gonna dox Patrick Casey? Like, the IQ of these Nimbus was off the rocker, dude. It's like we're gonna dog yeah man we just dogs Patrick Casey like retarded Nimbus. It's like I screenshotted Patrick Casey in this yeah. So they're getting pissed off at me. Now I'm pretty sure the
Oh.
reason they did this was because the leader liked to go bipolar mode and pulled a Judas on people at random times. I'm not gonna go into detail. I'll just say that there is some behind the scenes drama, and I don't know if it was jealousy. I don't know if it was just I don't know what it was, but behind the scenes there is some drama going on. I got thrown under the bus without me knowing at the time, and they were trying to scapegoat shit to get me removed. So they make a big deal out of this. I'm making fun of them. I'm screenshotting the chats because I'm like, this is retarded. You're gonna kick me out over this shit, then I'm gonna make fun of you, and I'm gonna tell everyone else what's going on. And that freaked them out. They're like, don't do it. You can't expose the inner circle. I'm like, well, if I'm gonna get kicked out for this shit, and you're gonna like lie about it, then I might as well just document it. And if people
Hmm.
ask me, I'll say because they'll and this actually happened after I got because I eventually left slash got kicked out, and people when I told them the story, some people said there's no way, like you're missing something, and I had to actually go and I'm like no this actually happened, and then like shit like you're right like I'm like exactly so all because I screenshotted the chats they wouldn't believe me I wouldn't have people would think I'm like crazy or something I guess locally but anyways um they keep on spreading out over smaller things. I think the second thing they spread out over was like my bio on like Instagram or Facebook or something, where I put I was like an AF Christian or yeah, that I was like AF Christian, a nationalist, and I had a passion for like history and IT or something like that. And they spurred out and said I can't like it was bad optics. I'm like YCM is literally a distant right wing organization and it has a Facebook group, and you're saying that if I put AF in my bio, then that's bad optics. Like this is what I mean. It was like they
Hmm.
were clearly scapegoating me. They were trying to get rid of me. They were trying to get rid of a lot of people. I mean, you can ask BP, wherever he is now, and he'll say a similar story. But after that happened, I kind of just went off the radar, and since then I've just been a follower of Nick. I don't want to like, get involved in these local groups, these state groups, unless they're
Hmm.
following Nick Funds. Because what happened is a year after this happened, the leader goes full Wignat. He takes Patrick Casey's side. More than half of the group goes Wignat, and they're with whoever. Most of them just don't like Nick, whether they're because they like Patrick Casey better or whatever. They're all like, yeah, like, well, Nick's a cat boy, oh, blah, blah, blah. It's like, okay, and these nibbas were like in a hotel room making, gay jokes and stuff. And then they're saying that like, when Nick makes gay jokes, it's gay. It's like, you guys are retarded. You're literally a hypocrite,
Hmm.
okay? Um, because we'd be in hotel rooms sharing rooms and stuff, and they'd be joking about like cuddling each other. It was like okay, like it's a joke,
Hmm.
but they say that, and then they go after Nick for that. It's like you guys
Yeah.
are
Who are they to
hypocrites.
judge? Yeah. Who
Yeah,
are they to judge?
yeah. I thought. I mean, I was like, this is so retarded. Anyways, so they all turned out Wignats, and the whole thing is just since then it's been dead. I think the group got disbanded about a year ago, but that's the YCM lore. That was my partaking in YCM.
Hmm.
And I mean, like I just said, I kind of just follow Nick. So I am the host of Zoomer Content, and it is a clipping channel. And what I do, unlike other clippers, is because obviously if I just clip Nick's show every day, I'll get banned. So what I try to
Hmm.
do is I will just clip segments. So if he's on a show for another mainstream channel, I'll clip that because obviously if they ban that video, they'll ban the video on that channel. But usually what they'll do is they'll ban the video on that channel first if they ever ban mine. But they never ban my videos. But I do that, and that gets a lot of views. It gets a lot of a lot of people to view this channel and to watch Nick,
Hmm.
and I don't get banned, so it's a bonus. And that's kind of my tactic. I also clip Kanye. I mean, anyone that's AF adjacent, that's on anything mainstream, or something that I can clip that, you can't say, oh, this is hate speech. You're clipping, an AFF, hosted, individual or something. I don't know. I don't know if that's why they're not banning my videos or my account, but I've just noticed, like, okay, if I clip Nick Show, it gets deleted, it gets banned, that's a risk. But if I clip,
Hmm.
okay, he's on No Jumper, okay, he's on Eli Schaefer's thing, whatever, then they don't care about that. So, and I'll also upload replays as well. Those get more clicks, shit, more views than the actual clips themselves most of the time. But I still
Hmm.
clip the show anyway, or the when he's on these shows anyway, because I mean, I am a clipper, so that's kind of what I do. But I go to AFPAC, I go to most of the events. I am kind of in the circles of a lot of these AF generals and these AF colonels, and I'm kind of just there. I'm not really like really known for anything. I like ZoomerNet kind of described me as like the average, and I don't want to represent all the gripers. I'm not like the frontline group representative, but ZoomerNet said
Yeah.
that I'm like the griper sergeant major of the army. What that means is that I'm like the guy that's like part of the masses, the griper
Hmm.
masses,
Yeah.
but I'm also like I can speak on them or something along those lines where it's like I'm like the average griper and I can represent that and like something
Yeah.
along those lines. I don't know how accurate that is because I want to
I
say
get
like
what he's
yeah
saying. I get what he's
because
saying though. Like a
mhm.
model, right?
Yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, like
the
the
template,
model
like
loyal,
the
yeah,
base template.
yeah, yeah, the model, the template griper soldier. Like if someone wants to be like an ideal griper, I guess you could say that I'm one of them. But then again, it's like if I was the model soldier, I want to be like the most productive, most loyal, the most like anything, the biggest
Right.
fanatic, the biggest fan. You know, I don't know if I'm not. That's not for me to judge. That's up for the president for life himself to judge whether you know I uh, whether I am adjacent to those qualities. So I'm not going to say I am that model, but that's how some people kind of describe me. And but
Mhm.
I do aspire to take some part in AF. I have been involved in a lot of local politics, and I can't really dox myself, at least not right now.
Mhm.
But I do a lot on the state, local level of politics, even nation level on occasion. I'll do some stuff, and I'm really active in that regard. And I'd love to talk about it. I'd love to, but I
Yeah.
can't. So, other than that, on the internet, I'm just a clipper. I'm just a fan of the
Right.
show. Um, on occasion, I play games with a lot of the generals, or the colonels in the movement. On occasion, I'll be
Mhm.
involved in the gameplay. Like I was a big player in AF Anarchy was when I was in, but the one before that, Avcraft, I think they call it. I
Yeah.
formed like the biggest town or something in that. I owned
Wow.
Zoomerville. I was the founder of Zoomerville, and that's like the biggest town next to Kuiperberg. I think, at least back in the day, it was. It might not be anymore. But I remember Gene going on there. He's like, oh, um, oh, that's a story I gotta tell. And then I'll let you ask your other questions. I know I've been going off on a tangent. Not that it's a bad thing. You said I can go off on a tangent,
Yeah.
but
Yeah, and you've given me a lot to digest here. In fact, we're gonna go deeper than you probably expect. So do carry on.
so yeah, yeah, yeah. So this was about a year ago, exactly about 13 months ago. Jaden logged on to Avcraft, and he's looking around, and he spots Zoomerville, because Zoomerville, it's like right next to spawn. It's huge. It has like this huge castle. Zoomerville has a lot of lore to it, by the way. We had a lot of like in-game wars where we had to use lava buckets to kill the other team. We had our own USS Liberty incident. We had our own Treaty of Versailles. We were like getting reparations from like these people and stuff. But I don't know. This is more this is more interesting. So Jaden came on, and he's like, "Wow, like whoever built Zoomerville, like this guy's a genius. This is great. This is wholesome. Whatever." He's like stroking our egos. I'm not even online, by the way. I'm like doing some other stuff. Someone notifies
Yeah.
me. He's like, "Hey, this guy's looking at our town." Blah blah blah. I log on, and it's too late. He's already moved on, and he's playing Bed Wars. And I'm like, okay, well, I might as well hop in Bed Wars, and I'll play with him. I'm kind of good at Bed Wars. I'm not that good, but I'll play. A couple rounds later, I'm playing, and I realize I like spawn next to like Jaden's spawn or whatever, and Jaden is like his teammates were like not that good or whatever. At
Hmm.
least I remember them being not that good. So I'm like, okay. Jaden himself wasn't that good either. So I don't know. I got stocked up in like some iron or diamond or like the maximum gear. I was like stocked
Yeah.
up. I had golden apples and everything. Went over to his base and I just killed Jaden. And he was like freaking out. He's like, who's this Aleczaender faggot? Like, came over here and killed me, blah, blah, blah. He responds. And his bed's like right there. It's like kind of defended, but it's not. And so I can either go for the bed and just end it for him, or I can just spawn kill Jaden. What
Yeah.
do? I spawn kill Jaden. And so I go and kill him, and Jaden's like, this Aleczander faggot is just killing me. He's not even destroying the bed. He's just killing me. Like, this guy's a faggot. Who is this guy? Who is this Aleczander guy? He's going off in the
Hmm.
stream. I'm cacking my ass off. I'm like, oh my god. Like, this
You,
is...
you knew the JQ question, the Jaden question,
I
before it
did.
was the thing.
I was
Carry
also
on.
right about Trey. I have a story for that too sometime.
No, well, I think
But
everyone that called out Trey was right about
wow.
Trey. I mean, like,
Yeah, but
but
I knew him personally. Like me and him played video games together, and I was like, yeah, this guy, he is not our guy. This guy is an enemy of the people. But anyways, so I keep on killing him. I eventually he gets like a bow. He's trying to kill me. My teammates like knocking him off. I'm killing him with him, and he's just raging. And I got it all on recording, clipped it, uploaded it on my
mm,
channel Zoomer content, and it was great. And this was like a year before he like left the movement. So
yeah,
well, half a
yeah,
year. So that was great. He went off, and I felt great about it. I didn't care. I was just cacking. All the people in AF thought it was cack, and so that was good. And then Trey, I knew Trey because I was you remember that when Nick did that politics thing, he was involved in that questionnaire. So I was in that. I didn't ask any questions. I was just there to like support Nick, you know, because I was in that server before Nick joined at one point. So I kind of hopped in, and he was going off doing his thing. Well, after the hours upon hours of him being there, they eventually said, okay, um, everyone's able to talk to Nick. You'll all get like 5 minutes one-on-one with Nick, and you'll get selected. And out of the like 1,000 people, I was one of the 20 people that got selected, alongside like Trey and a few other people. I'm like, holy shit! Like, I'm gonna, this is my moment.
yeah.
This is my rise.
You're
This is
Willy
my
Wonka, golden ticket.
yeah, yeah. I was like, this is my Palpatine moment, this is my moment or my Darth Vader moment, or something like that. So, I'm in this channel with like 20 other people, and we're all sitting there. And Nick joins, and he's talking, and we're like talking in there, and there's like this Fed going off saying, Nick, why don't you support an armed revolution? And I'm like yelling at this guy saying, you're a Fed, get out of here, you're a Fed, leave the chat, like you don't belong here. And he's like, I'm not a Fed, I'm not a Fed. And Nick's kind of just sitting there. He eventually chimes in. He's kind of like, let the guy talk. I want to hear this guy, or something like that. I don't want to speak for him, but he's something along those lines. I'm like, all right, I'm like, gotcha. Anyways, we're there. The mod joins. He's like, all right, you guys get 5 minutes one-on-one. The minute the mod says that, another admin joins and says, okay, there's 1,000 people waiting to speak to Nick. We're just gonna move all of them into this chat. I'm like, no, 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 no. One-on-one, one-on-one. 1,000 people get moved into this chat, and
You gotta
it's
have your
like,
moment, right?
yeah, it's like it's over. It's like it's over. It's like I can have my one-on-one with Nick. Everyone's in the
Mm.
voice VC, and Trey was in the VC. He watched all this happen. He's like, "You've been here for like 8 hours, dude." He's like, "You haven't gone to the bathroom once. You've been in here all this time. I'll tell you what. If you buy Sea of Thieves to play with me, I'll let you meet Nick." I'm like, "What? Seriously? Like Trey, you do that for me?" So I'm like, "All right." I'm like, "Let's do this." I buy Sea of Thieves. I'm like, "This shit's expensive. It's taking up like 100 gigabytes. I don't got anything but." For Nick Funness, I'm doing this. So I've get on the game. It wasn't even worth it. Trey is like the captain of the ship. I'm on there with who are the other two guys that were with me? I think Kai hopped on. This was before he was really mainstream too.
Hmm.
Um, Kai hopped on. Oh, Brody. That was his name. It was me, Kai, Brody, and Trey. I think it was Kai. I mean, I know on a few occasions Kai was with us. So I was like kind of in like this outer inner circle type thing. It was like kind of like the inner circle, but it wasn't. It was more like Trey's inner circle. I'm there. I'm playing with Trey. And Trey, we're like about to like I don't know, fight some person, and Trey's like, "Get on the cannons now, Alexander! I swear to God!" He's like barking down the microphone. He's like
Yeah.
screaming down, saying, "Get on the cannons now! We'll kill you! I'll kick you out! I'll ban you!" I'm like, "Holy shit, Trey! Okay, okay." I get on the cannons, and I'm
Wow.
like, I'm like almost sweaty. I'm like, "Shit! Like, we gotta destroy these people, whatever." Like every time we were about to get into like a situation, he'd just start screaming down the microphone. I'm like, "Trey, it's just a game. Relax, dude. Relax." He's like screaming at me. I'm like, for Nick Fuentes, I guess I gotta, deal with this kid. 1 week later, I finally get my moment. Nick, it's like 3 in the morning or something like that, some like really late hour. Nick joins the VC, and Trey's like, okay, you get 1 minute with him, and that's it. And then I forgot what happened. I think what happened was that Trey started like bantering with me, and I was bantering back because Nick was in the call, and I'm like, well, if I start getting all serious, I'm gonna look like a spurg or something, right? So I'm bantering back with Trey, and I'm like, oh, you're a Jewish pedo or whatever the banter was at the time,
Yeah.
and he's going back at me, and I'm going back at him, and then not even like 10 seconds in, I think I just got like banned from the server or something, and I'm like, well, I guess that's
He
it then.
scammed you. He scammed
Yeah,
you.
he scammed me. So I made some meme, the Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 meme, where it's like Captain Price or whatever, the betrayal. Um,
Mm.
I think I'm being too
It
loud.
happened to you. You're being too
Um,
loud.
I think I am.
The reason why your computer probably sucks is because Sea of Thieves takes up like 100 gigs. You gotta uninstall that business, man. You gotta take care of that. Man, yeah, but the whole Trey question, right, man? He tried to pretend he was Polish, by the way, because I'm Polish, and he tried to like, lure me into his ship of fools, if you will, and I was like, no, you're not Polish, dude. You're not Polish.
Hmm.
I can tell. And he's like, no, screw the Polish. I'm a Jew, and I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
see.
Okay, so apparently that's not what it was. Someone just wanted to see me. But anyways, yeah. So I'm like, okay, this Trey guy, Trey the traitor. I don't think this guy is real, whatever. And I moved on from that. I don't know about all the allegations, because I mean, I know, look, just knowing Twitter and just seeing how people are, I mean, they will take anything and turn it into something big. So I don't know. I can't really judge for those, but I will say that in terms of his loyalty, in terms of like all that, I mean, he is kind of a lying bastard. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I know you had some questions you want to ask me. Well, more questions and other stuff I want to deep dive into. So I'll get into that. That's enough about kind of my general history, my general past, and who I am and what I've done. Um, so yeah, pretty much.
All right, yeah. So I had some questions. That was a lot to digest there, man.
Yeah.
Starting with your school to that group to the
Hmm.
breakdown of that group, kind of to your loyalty to Nick, and I think your formative years, right? Your formative years. Oftentimes, that's how someone decides the rest of their life. If you're a scumbag in middle school, early high school, most likely you'll be a scumbag your whole life. If you're someone who's looking towards the truth in middle school, high school, you'll probably keep following it with discipline. So, would you say, because it sounds like you were a nerd, right? You're like a good nerd. I know,
Yeah.
we know, we know, we
Well.
know, we know what we're talking about here, right?
Right.
You knew things. You knew things. You didn't have forever an eighth grade, let's say, reading acumen. Like you kind of were beyond that. There's a reason why people gave you their homework, right?
Hmm.
So, is it true that in most public schools that people stop reading after high school, like with your friends? Like, do people stop educating themselves after high school? Because this kind of leads into some more things I wanted to ask. So,
Hmm. Do I
is
think
it
that people stop reading after high school?
stop
Uh,
educating? Yeah.
Stop educating themselves. I mean, personally, when I was in high school, when I was in elementary school, what I like to do is so I had this teacher because at like 8, 9 years old, I was like literally we would have these writing assignments like every day, and I'd always write about World War II. And the teacher was like really fascinated by it, so she like literally bought me these World War II books, and she let me come early to class like an hour early, and I'd sit on this like comfy couch and I'd read. I'd come sometimes even earlier than that. I'd intentionally come earlier because I would just read, so I'd have something to write about later on. Or I'd go
Mhm.
home and play video games. I'd play like, the old Call of Duties, and I'd get something out of that. I'd have like stories. I'd have like in
Mhm.
my mind, I'm like thinking like these are, this guy is Ivan Alexei, and this guy's this. And I'd have like all these
Yeah.
imaginary, and then I'd go to school. I'd write like an entire like a literally I'd literally write like 10 pages, and everyone else would have like
Mhm.
one page of these little things. I'd have like, okay, I get like a typewriter and I just start typing away because it was faster. I'm like, dude, I want to, but anyways, so since then, I haven't really done any of that. I haven't like, well, obviously that was mandatory. I had to write stories, but I would also write stuff in my free time. I'd read in my free time, and since then I've never really like read anything. Um,
Mhm.
I think I read one thing in the past 3 years, and it was like this book. It was like an online like history of like these people that were once like they basically, I mean, they're not incels because they weren't celibate, but they went through like relationships and marriages and all these other things, and they
Mhm.
gave their experience about it and like what they did wrong and how to not follow the same tracks or something like that. And they had
No.
like a dozen or 2 dozen stories. I read something like that. I don't know what that was because this was years ago. I read that. That's the only thing I've really read. I read
Dang.
and that's it. I read the
Training.
Bible. Like yesterday or 2 days ago, I read the entire book of Revelations and then did a private analysis to my inner circle and explained how some of the verses may be attributing to America, like the verse about the lady with the statue, with the stat or not, it doesn't say statue, but it's like holding a cup, and it has all these like details in it that maybe think of the Statue of Liberty, and it mentions
Mhm.
how um, it's that this symbol is about the great whore who is importing or taking in all of these spices and oils and like all these like different things. And I think, who's importing from all over the world? Who is the great
Yeah.
whore of the world? And it mentions how this empire, this nation, is not like it's a world empire, but it has dominion over all the other nations. Well, what is a modern world empire that doesn't control everyone by annexation of the Roman Empire, but has it by dominion, aka influence? America. So
Yeah.
I was analyzing that. I'm like, well, this could either be America now, America in the future, or this could be, the one world order. But I'm pretty sure the one world order, the way I mean we describe it and think of it, is going to be total annexation, total one currency, one religion. I think in Revelations, what I was looking at that was referenced. Um, it could be America, but I don't know for sure. I'd have to do more analyzation. I'd have to get more advice on the matter because I'm just one person, so I don't want to be a narcissist and judge. That's what it is. But I read the book of Revelations. A few months ago, I read the entire book of Job. I've read it twice now. Um, so
Mhm.
I'll read the Bible. Um, I have devotions I'll read daily. Um,
Yeah.
I'll do Bible study with my young adult group. Um,
Well, I
that's
think
about
you.
it.
Yeah, you answered my questions. Like, you don't need to
Okay.
read like drivel like Harry Potter. Maybe it's like you get these girls. These like these wine ants or wine ants to be. They're like, oh, I'm gonna go read a book. It's called Where the Crawdad Sings. And then they'll post it on their Instagram or something like these Costco books. That you get in like right there.
Hmm.
I'm not talking about that, but I think the Bible is all you really need, really. Like that is it. If you're not gonna read
Yeah.
anything your whole life, if you're just gonna read one thing, that should be your desert island book. And you'd call yourself religious, wouldn't you?
Yeah. Definitely. Yeah. And
And
spiritual.
reason I kind of gained that as much because I notice a pattern with guys like you who let's just say like they start out really based.
Hmm.
And I mean this because it's like some guys, I would say most come to Nick from a more liberal side, right? Or they come from a more not as traditional thinking. Whereas it seems like what you told me about your growing up is that you already were pretty based, and the reason he took on it because he was very optical, right? Like he was optical, and
Yeah.
yeah, I get that. And then with your group, the group that you were in, I got the feeling that most of those guys weren't religious, or if they
Yeah.
were, it was
They weren't.
merely just like a veneer
They were
or
very
something.
pagan, unironically.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So they honestly cared more about being what they would call, like race aware, right, or ethnocentric.
Yeah.
What's funny is you're not going to go to heaven by just being like a racist or just being racially aware. You need to be a good Christian, and if you don't have loyalty to God, you're not going to have loyalty to anyone on earth, in my opinion. No leader on earth, because all leaders on earth get their command from God.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I just noticed that, and I like to analyze oftentimes how people become groypers, because you've probably come across them, haven't you, where people they tend to be in it for the wrong reason,
Yep, unfortunately, yeah. I met some guys who they were going to intern actually. I was talking about, oh, I want to intern, and they're like, but they were mentioning payment, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's a volunteer program. You don't really get paid. And these aren't really gripers. They're kind of the guys that like on occasion they'll see Nick, they'll laugh, and then they'll move on. And
Hmm.
I like to advertise them whenever they say there's an internship application because I think there should be more people involved in that. I think there should be more people
Hmm.
helping out, and so I'm like, okay, and I'll forward this, and people can, you know, go be foot soldiers for Nick Fuentes. But anyway, and I'm just saying that because I add context. But these people were talking about it, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think if you're, first of all, if you're in it for the money, this is not that kind of cause. Okay, if you're gonna get
Yeah.
paid, like, okay, go work for like a base person in Congress or something, or I don't know. I mean, literally just work for a major Republican. If you just
Hmm.
want to work in politics and get paid, which is kind of opportunist, but I mean, I know some friends that are Goipers, and they had to do that at first, but they got connections, and through that they were able to meet base people, which got them
Hmm.
involved in a base candidate. So, sometimes you gotta play a little bit of an intel agent. That's how I see it. Not really an opportunist, but an intel agent for a bit, and then eventually you can. But yeah. So unfortunately, some people are in it for that. Some it's just pride. Like YCM, I think the ambition for the leaders there it was just power. It was an opportunity to get
Hmm.
a lot of power, a lot of influence, and the majority of people in my area at the time um, were AF. Most of the youth, even some of the like millennials, were avid, gripers, AFers, Wignats. So for someone to go there as a neocon would be less popular than someone going there as someone that's AF. Because here, what I found out is that prior to me and BP telling this guy that we were gripers, he was total cock. Total, like, oh, I have Jewish blood, I have this, I have that, blah, blah, blah. And that should have been a
Hmm.
red flag when he said, oh, I'm a griper now. And
Yeah.
it's funny, it's like right after Groiper War, he's like, oh, yeah, I was closeted Groiper the whole time. What's funny is that you could tell he was a new fag because he was using the term alt-right. And I'm like, no, this is the distant right, not the alt-right. What are you talking about? So you could tell this guy was like kind of, didn't know what he was talking about, kind of just jumped right in. And I mean, maybe he was a closeted groiper, just didn't really watch the show. I really don't know. The vibe I got was that it wasn't genuine. It was very opportunist. And I mean, I've heard a lot of things about the guy, so that's my opinion. But you're right. Definitely a lot of people are involved. And I mean, we see this all the time. Every year,
Yeah.
there's always a few generals or a few people that are, you know, not in the inner circle, but close to the inner circle. I'd call it
Hmm.
the outer circle. It's not really a term
Yeah.
used, but I like to say there's an inner circle of friends, and then you have an outer circle of friends who are close, but they're not close enough to be in the inner, you know,
Yeah.
part of
And you're speaking as
membership.
as an observer, right? Who's
Yes.
been watching for several years.
Yeah, I
And
am.
I have too, and I've noticed a pattern of people who are kind of fair weather groypers. Like these groypers don't even know what the word knicker is. Like before there was groyper, there was almost knicker, the knicker nation,
Yeah.
And I say that with the CK just so people don't think I'm saying something else, but that's what it was, and they think we're in it because it's good, it's fun, like we're punk rock, right? It's like we're
Right.
punk rock. It's never anything beyond that.
Mhm.
Never anything beyond that. There's nothing real, nothing tangible. And the
Mhm.
moment times get hard, they jump ship. They
Yeah.
jump ship. Like, and they're questioning our Lord when the ship is rocky, right? The apostles, they're like, "Oh my goodness, please save us." Oh, ye of little faith, right? And
Mhm.
then they whine and seethe
Yeah.
later, whine and seethe later, and then they make their whole identity out of being a traitor. Like, look at Jaden,
Mhm.
whole identity now is just critiquing everybody. Just oh
Yeah.
wow, I'm just gonna, you guys suck, and yeah, it's just at the end of the day, it's like, do you want to be known for would you rather like serve in heaven, or would you rather rule in hell? Which one are you gonna choose, right? Like,
Right.
I don't know about you're probably thinking the same thing, but it's like I am perfectly fine just doing my job and clipping and making like edifying content or
Yeah.
funny content.
Mhm.
Like the more I see these disasters, of these personal disasters of people who shouldn't, having, this much power, like Jaden or something, like they're just not, personally capable of handling it. It's like the more I don't even want to ever be in a situation like that. It's just like there's a lot of pressure and there's a lot of people, gunning for you as well. So I don't know. Nick certainly people don't understand all the troubles he goes through, like they really don't.
Mhm.
And they think it's just easy to be a leader in politics. So they just critique from a place of comfort. They're like, in their chair, like, oh, yada yada yada. So I'm glad to see that people are loyal. Like the rankers are loyal. Like the what are you, the sergeant? What
Yeah.
were you called?
Well, he called me like the sergeant major of the Gripers, which is in the army. There's like an NCO who's in charge of all like the drill doctrines and all like the enlisted crap. And he has like the authority of like a general, but he's like a sergeant major because he's on the front lines.
Yeah,
So, but I would say like if you wanted to put me on like a scale, because I know there's like all these terms. Oh, he's a Griper general. He's a Griper colonel. I'd say I'm more like a
yeah.
Griper captain or like a Griper major because um I'm not really in Nick's inner or outer circle. I'd say, like I've talked to him, I've met him, whatever, but it's not like, I'm anywhere near that. So, but I definitely like I said, locally, statewide, and even, you know, around the nation, I've gone places to contribute. I've helped led people, I've helped the movement out with management and just organizing and just swing people in the right direction and stuff. And so,
Hmm.
you know, I don't really like judging myself and who I like, what is your rank? What is your role? Well,
Yeah,
you
yeah, yeah.
know, so I don't want to say, oh, I'm like a Groiper Colonel, and then it's like, no, I don't even know who you are. Who is this guy? Oh,
Yeah,
he's a Groiper
yeah,
Colonel. Get this guy out of here. This guy is an
yeah.
impersonator. It's like, okay, okay, okay. So, and I like to humble myself. I like to not,
Hmm.
you know, get too full of myself. So I like to undermine myself not because I'm low self-esteem, but because, I just want to do the good work for God. I want to serve AF. I want to serve whatever is good. I want to just serve. And if I have a good ability to lead, then put me in leadership. If I have a good ability to serve, put me in service. If I have a good
Hmm.
ability to do both, then I don't know, put me in both.
Yeah,
That's not up to me because I am not the person that's been doing this for 6, 7, however many years, right?
yeah.
Um, I have been involved for 3.5 years. So,
Hmm.
you know, let the experts decide. They know more. They know
Hmm.
better. So their opinion is more valuable than mine. Henceforth, it is their job to put me in these boxes or titles or whatever. I leave that to them to judge and decide. And and you mentioned earlier how I like to observe, and I mean that's kind of how I am too. Um, when it comes to socializing with people. I am like a sponge. I like to observe and understand and obtain a gradual of intellect. And then eventually, after months, years of doing so, I like to just expunge, just let it all out and
Hmm.
release all this intelligence so that someone else can do the same who is observing and they can move up the line, the chain, or whatever and do the same. And that's kind of how I've gone about things for the past couple of years. I've kind of learned to just, well, start of my life, I was always an observer. On rare
Hmm.
occasion, I was like someone that was out there being a social butterfly, but on rare occasion, usually it was for survival, I was a social butterfly. Like in group situations, I was always trying to be like, okay, we're doing it this way, and if you disagree, like get out. Well, what I would say is like either you guys work with me, or I'll just do this by myself, and you're on your own. And it worked all the time. It's like this guy's a smart guy. Let's do what this guy says. And if they're feeling like cocky, like I could do this, then it's like okay, well, if you're all this, then you're on your own. And so I know that's kind of prideful. That was in the past. That was a past
Hmm.
mentality. But growing up, that was kind of my mentality. Is I was just observing people, trying to study others, and study those who had intellect and knew what they were doing, obviously, and then after so long, expunge that for myself. So high school was when I was more social. I spent, weeks kind of getting out there. Like I said, I mean, I was kind of a nerd. Um, and in high school, I wasn't as much. Um, I was just a little bit of a fake cell. I'm still a virgin. I haven't like gone far or anything, but you know,
Very important.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Just saying for the record. But you know, I was more so just trying to get a feel for the world. I'm like, what is the world like? I was kind of on an intel mission to try and see how bad really things were, and I'm like, yeah, it's hell. This shit is depressing. I think I was more depressed being involved in that world, which was full of like, and I never did any drugs or anything, but full of
Hmm.
drugs and um, women and sex and lust and pride. It's like this is like hell, dude. Like, how does people look at this and say like, yeah, this is the life, dude? Like, this is like no wonder they're on weed all the time. It's like, yeah, no.
Yeah.
It's like because you have to live with all this shit. You're not filled with God. Um, on the other hand, after that, I'm like, yeah, most of my friends IRL, even if they're not gripers, they're always Christians. Because I know that Christians, those who actively go to church, um, have good intentions. They have good intentions. They're good. They're loyal, and they're always there for you. So I've learned that a lot too, compared to my high school friends, or college friends, or even my political friends. Even my political friends, who some of them are gripers, um, and this can be applied to women that say they're AF adjacent too, but they really don't have that many good intentions. I mean, the vast majority of my groper friends that I know in person are good people, but there are some that are hypocritical. They judge, and then it's like, okay, like you're literally doing this, you know. But Christians, 9 times out of 10, um, other Christians are quite more loyal, from what I've seen, and that could always
Hmm.
change. There's lukewarm Christians, but
Yeah.
so yeah.
Well, it seems like, you have a job to do,
Mhm.
and wherever AF and the Lord take you,
Mhm.
that's where you're going to be, right? I think it's, you work as hard as you can. You try to learn, you try to grow, sharpen your tools, right? And I mean that like mentally, of course. And then, where AF takes you, and that's where you'll end up. I think a lot of the times people want to be in positions of power because it does give them, like you mentioned, girls or
Mhm.
money,
Yeah.
all of this stuff. And that's why they get hollowed out. I mean, just look at the history of Christianity when people want to be a bishop or something, right? It's like doesn't really end up the way they thought it would.
Mhm.
And I liked what you said too about it's the world is all about lust. It's all about
Mhm.
these things and drugs especially. One of the most pressing things, and you can make your comments on this, but one of the most pressing and important things I saw in the Ye interview, of all the Ye interviews we've had so far, is when he was talking with Cuomo. And Cuomo admitted that he takes his antidepressants.
Hmm.
Basically, that's what he said. Like, oh, you need to take your drugs. Dude, dude. Like, what do you think of this is kind of off a tangent of AF now, but I want to mention this. I think therapy is a lie. I think therapy is a replacement for spiritual direction. And I think it's all a scam. And I think drugs are a scam. I think it's an emotional crutch. So if you want to talk about that and how the world's basically doped up to prevent people from thinking for themselves, go ahead. But that's where I stand on that. I don't like therapists, and I think it's a lie and a scam.
Yeah. Um. Makes sense. For
Mhm.
me, my therapy has always been God, always been Jesus Christ. If I'm ever in the
Good.
car and it's late and it's raining, I can't see anything on the way home. I just um my spirituality with God is very, very close. It's like God to me, Christ to me is like another, like my best friend. Wherever I
Mhm.
go, whenever I'm in something, I'm always talking to him. I'm always conversating with him. Like the other day, I was in the car. I was at a gas station, doing my thing, getting gas, and I go to start it up, and it wouldn't start. And so I'm there, and I'm like, God, like, what do I do? What do I do? Like, can I get out of this? I'm like, please, I'm like, Lord, like, please, like, at the very least, this is a test. Like, please no tow truck this time, because that happened before. Another story for another time, but um, it's like, please, like, can I get out? Like, I just, what do I do? What do I do? And usually I call my dad first, whenever I'm stuck with something. But this time I called up my Christian friends first. They came to mind. I knew that one of my friends was like involved in like the trade industry, and my other friend, he's like really good with like a lot of handy stuff himself too. So I called them up. They came over and they helped me out. And then I did eventually have to call my dad. Eventually, I had to get the whole thing, figured out. But I
Mm-hmm.
got through it. I had faith. I knew I'd get out of it, and got the car started up, and it was fine. And so sometimes I look to God always, no matter what I'm doing, where I'm at. If I die, even if I go through something, it's God's will, so I have no fear because it's God's plan and it's going
Mm-hmm.
somewhere. Either way, no matter what it is, even if we fail, which won't happen, but even if they kill Nick once, even if they kill us, they kill everyone else, Jesus will still return, and he will
Amen.
demolish all of the
Amen.
opposition and retake it 1,000 times greater than we ever could. Okay,
Amen.
no matter what, we will
Mm-hmm.
win regardless. That is inevitable. It doesn't matter who they kill, who they silence, who they stop. We will come back 1,000,000,000 times stronger and win 1,000,000 times greater than we could have ever dreamt of.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
So
that's the story.
there is no ending to that. But so my faith in Jesus Christ, our King, our Lord, our Savior, is immeasurable always. And in saying that, sometimes I'm at a very low point and I almost forget. But I mean, if you just keep that in your mind all the time, write a note for yourself. Just try to remember that. And every time you're in something, if you think of that, it's for me personally. If I can try to remember that, I can go through almost any day. So I
Mm-hmm.
still go. We all have demons. We all go through things. But um, if you know the word, if you know the Lord, and if you have a strong, immeasurable, unbreakable bond with the Lord, I mean, that is a tool, that is a weapon you can use against, your enemies. I think, uh, you know, and I don't think I've ever really been depressed, at least
Mm-hmm.
not like on a like desperate basis. I've felt
Yeah.
depressed,
Yeah.
but
Natural.
never actually depressed. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, so anyways, yeah. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I like hearing that because it's when it comes down to it, when at least in my opinion, when it comes down to it, I think a lot of the times people turn to the wrong types of people, wrong types of substances when they want to, repair something that's hurt inside of them or they're going through something, right?
Mhm.
And at least what I found helpful, I used to have I used to have a big swearing problem, big vulgarity, anger problem. And I just tried to think of God's always in the room watching you. God is right there. God's watching you, and you should rather try to say something edifying than not. It's like after all, we're not animals, right? We're not animals. And one of my biggest philosophies is, the spirit of reform is constant. And
Mhm.
that's how I try to live. So for me, dude, it's just purely it's the faith. Don't need therapy. You don't need meds. You need none of that stuff.
Mhm.
I think I think that's the fog that obfuscates the sun.
Right.
So yeah, I have a few more questions, but I want to see what time do we have? How long have we been doing this? I gotta even
I'll let you check the
found,
timer.
found myself in the tunnel, kind of, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah, of course.
We've been going for 58 minutes. I think an hour about is good. Keeping it somewhat around a certain time, but I want to do this more often, and
Mhm.
maybe we can have set topics. We could game together. I know you love Bannerlord. I know you love Warband,
Yes. Mhm.
classic games, and we should do like a multiplayer stream where we get Groypers playing it, because that's not a big Groyper game yet, unless I'm hanging out in the wrong circles. But I got 10 friends that play it, with me when I do it sometimes. But dude, we got to get a big Groyper server. Minecraft's great, but we got to get a Groyper multiplayer Bannerlord. You know how fun that would be?
Yeah.
Dude, like,
Affection, yeah. No, we should. We definitely should. Bannerlord, I wouldn't say is because you've got a lot of people that play that aren't us. But Warband, there's a lot of
mhm,
people on Warband that are definitely our guy. Not all of them are gripers, but He's got a lot of Wignats on there. But um, in my time, I remember being on there, and there's a lot of people that weren't like too edgy. They were more in the middle because people that are like, you get the average Wignat who's like, oh yeah, AH,
Hmm.
or
Right,
Italy
right,
or
right.
whatever. And Franco, I could say Franco's optical, but
Yeah,
when you had guys who admire Napoleon and Augustus Julius Caesar and all these like 19th century figures, it's like um, you could tell that they're based. They're not too edgy. Okay, they're obviously optical. Um, and like 80% of people that support those monarchist figures are our guy
yeah,
typically. I mean, not like 100% our guy, but they share our values. They're whether they're
yeah,
a traditional monarchist or whether they're a nationalist or a paleoconservative, they share our
yeah.
values, and it's kind of our crowd in a sense, from what I remember when I used to play Warband. So yeah, we should. I mean, I'm more of a Bannerlord guy. I hate to say it, but it's like the graphics have kind of won me over. So, but
Right,
I
and now
I
it's a
do.
full release. It's a full release,
True.
and it's
So.
modded. It's modded.
Hmm. Yeah,
But we need to do something.
we do. You're absolutely right. There isn't. I mean, I used to have a big Griper network called ZNN, had like over 400 people, whatever. And I stopped doing it because I kept getting banned, and it's annoying because I have all these gaming servers that I'm on that aren't really affiliated with AF, but have a lot of AF people on there. Well, people that I
Mhm.
red pilled that are AF, I should say, because there's not very many old gens on it. But I used to do that, and I stopped because I kept getting banned. But if we keep it optical in the chat, it's like the VC doesn't matter, but if people are like spamming in the chats, you know, stuff about anything that's unoptical, then
Mhm.
obviously we're all gonna get banned. It's gonna be like, oh my god, here's my 20th account. But otherwise, yeah, it's a good idea. We should definitely do that, and I'd be down to play Warband. Either way, I'll still play Warband.
Yeah. Well, Full Invasion Osiris, great mod for Warband. That's going to be in Bannerlord soon. So you got
True.
your graphics there. You got your best of both worlds graphics plus, great, invasion style
Mm.
stuff. But yeah, I'm basically ready to wrap up. I got a few more questions, but I got dinner. I got some things I got to do. I
Mm.
know you two too, but I want to do this like every 1 to 2 weeks.
Sure.
Um, and we could talk about whatever. Personally, I could talk for hours. I know you can too.
Yeah, I
I've
could.
witnessed it. I've witnessed it. I was like, I want to ask him another question. I'm forgetting, and you're like, I'm gonna go into the lore of this,
Yeah, I.
Wignat infested group. I'm like, okay, okay. It's your show. It's your show.
Yeah, I
I'll let
should.
the captain steer.
Yeah, people say I should do a podcast or a show or something. It's like, okay, give me a microphone, give me a show then. Where is the
Yeah,
show? They're like,
yeah.
so, all right. Well,
I'm looking forward to it. I think we should do anything and make it original. I think get too many of these copycats like Nick who want to talk pure politics.
mhm,
Uh, not the streamer pure politics, but like they want to talk purely about that, and it's just like they can't do it as good. It's like Nick and Vince James; those guys got it down. Do what you excel at. A
mhm.
hobby, a game. Make it your own. So I'd be happy with that, whether it's gaming or just I think we got good rapport. Like we can converse. We're not like, so like I don't really like you or know you, like so
Yeah.
it'll work. And I want to say, guys, thank you very much on your channel, Zoomer Content. Thank you for having me do the interview. Thank you, Alec. And if anyone's watching on my show on replay, my channel, guys, make sure you follow him. Link in the description of this video on the Modern Monarchist YouTube. So check him out for good Nick clips, good AF clips, and got to keep these little islands on YouTube safe, is what I call them.
Mhm.
Everyone else has gotten just they had to face the wall basically.
Yeah.
So that's it. That's basically it. Any closing things you want to say, and then I'll let you sail on.
No, I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head there. I think we should do this a lot more often, and I think
Hmm.
this is kind of my way of getting this podcast energy out there. Because I said to my Telegram, I'm like, someone give me the gosh damn microphone already. This is ridiculous. But
Hmm.
because I got a lot to say, when I go and do anything I have passion in, it's like all this energy just gets built up when it's like I gotta release it. And I
Mm-hmm.
always I'll always spend it on like one or two people, and they always say this to me. So I'm like, finally. So yeah, you're right. We'll do this every now and then whenever I can. I'm not that busy. I can spare an hour, 2 hours to do this. So not a
Mm-hmm.
problem. But I look forward to it. Hopefully we do this again
Yeah,
next week,
the
2 weeks from now.
Alexander Modern Monarchist collab is happening in Minecraft, on Warband, and in our
So
shows.
true.
So
So
thank you.
true.
Thank you. We are going to end the stream. No need for a countdown. So thank you, everybody. Thank you, Alexander.
Mm.
Until the next time, God bless you
God
and good
bless.
night. Don't leave the stream. I'm just gonna no, don't leave the Discord call, but you can end the stream if you want.